This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Yo, what is up guys? Daniel here, and today I'm going to teach you how you can land a job as a full stack JavaScript developer, and I'm going to teach you about the things that I've been able to do to be able to get job offers from companies such as Blue Origin, Microsoft, and Google. So let's get into it. So you might be curious, what exactly is a full stack developer? Well, it's quite simple. When you look at any web application, mobile application, or just any application in general, there's two different components. There's the front end and there's the back end. So the front end is all the nice UI or the user interface that the user gets to see whenever they go to the application. And the back end is all of the data that is being stored so that the application is actually useful and functional. So when you combine both of those together, that is the full stack. And if you're a full stack developer, you understand how to build an end-to-end application. Now, full stack development is actually growing, and it keeps on growing year after year after year. In fact, if you just get an entry-level job, if you check out Indeed, you'll see that the salary will be a six-figure salary. So especially if you're just getting started straight out of college, or if you want to do a career transition, it's a great and open opportunity to get into. And I'll tell you something, even now, most of the front-end positions or the back-end positions still require you to know a little bit about the opposition. So you still kind of have to be a full stack developer. So now in this video, I'm going to take you step by step. I'm going to give you the roadmap to becoming a full stack developer, and then how you can land the dream six-figure developer job. But before we get into that, make sure to like this video so that the YouTube algorithm could push this out to everyone else so that we can impact and help more people land the six-figure full stack developer job. So let's get into this roadmap. So the way I've broken it down is there's two main parts to becoming and landing your full stack JavaScript developer. The first part is composed of becoming the full stack developer, and the second part is about how do you market yourself, how do you position and put yourself out there so that you can land your job as a full stack JavaScript developer. So let's go ahead and dive into part number one. To really master and become a full stack JavaScript developer, you're gonna want to start with the fundamentals of programming. So what exactly are the fundamentals of programming? I'm talking data types, conditionals, loops, and then you go on to functions. You start to build out objects. You start to leverage things such as arrays, data structures, and algorithms. All these different components allow you to really understand what programming is to its essential core. Once you've been able to master these and get a good understanding, at this point you can expand into any other language or any other framework, because these languages, especially for a full stack developer, are basically all the same thing. It's just different syntax. And by syntax, I mean a different way of writing it. So something I want to emphasize is I want you to focus on these fundamentals and not necessarily on what language or what framework you're picking up. Because if you're focused on trying to learn all these different frameworks and languages and you miss the fundamentals, you are not going to become a great programmer. And in order to be a full stack JavaScript developer that actually gets hired, you have to understand the fundamentals and be a great programmer. So once you learn the foundations to being a programmer, a developer, a problem solver, now you're gonna want to dive into front-end development. So by now you probably are using a language such as Python or JavaScript, so you understand the foundations of programming. Now you want to leverage other languages such as HTML and CSS and combine them with your skills of JavaScript so that you could build front-end applications. Again, this would mean that you dive in there and you build the UI of a web page, you build the buttons, you build the forms. You're able to build out a web page that is very aesthetic and has a nice appeal to it. And this is important because you could start to dive into realms such as UX or user experience. Sometimes front end receives a lot of hate because people tend to think it's a lot more simpler. But if Facebook or Instagram or Robinhood or any of these applications had a horrible user experience and the bad front end, you would not be using them. In fact, your favorite applications have an amazing front end, which is easy to look at and easy to use. So again, the languages you're going to want to make sure you understand here are going to be HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. And then on top of that, you're going to want to use frameworks because that's going to allow you to leverage these three together in a more marketable fashion so that you could land a job. So what frameworks might this include? React, Vue, Angular. These are just some of the names of the few frameworks that you could leverage here. So at this point, you build your foundational skills as a developer. You've been able to master front-end development, although maybe your applications might not be too useful because now you need to master back-end development. So the third part of learning and becoming a master and a full stack developer is the back-end development, because in the back-end is where you're actually going to store the data that is going to be useful for your application. Once you have data that you could store for a long period of time, now you could build full out applications. This is where you're gonna have to learn more about Node.js, MongoDB, how to leverage Firebase, how to use SQL, how to create SQL queries. And most importantly, you're gonna have to learn about APIs, because once you have the front end and once you have the back end, you have to make sure that they could talk to each other and pass the right data. And that's where the API comes in. So now you're saying, this is great, this is awesome, Daniel, but how do I actually start to practice these things? Well, don't worry, we have you there. The thing that you want to do, the number one thing that you want to focus on is building applications and building projects. If you can make them more like real life projects, such as the Netflix clones and the Amazon clones that we've put out in our channel, you'll have the advantage of being able to attract attention from recruiters. But not only that, you're gonna get real life experience. You're gonna know what it's like to build these applications. So when a company is trying to recruit someone who knows what they're building, you've already built it a couple times. So when you're building out these real life applications, you could do at every step of the process. When you go back to step one of learning the foundations, you could start to build projects that focus on building those foundational skills up. When you start to learn front end, you could build applications for that. When you start to learn back end, you could build applications for that. And as you're building these real life applications, you're gonna get better and better at your craft. And here's another thing you also want to leverage. When you're building these applications and you're writing lots of lines of code, you have to store this code somewhere because you don't want to lose it. This is where learning languages such as Git or using just version control skills is going to help you out, because these are skills that are actually used out there in the real world. So if you could use them now and learn them now, it's just going to beef up your portfolio and make you look a lot more impressive to any recruiter. Now, I really want to emphasize this. When I say build a project, I don't just mean going on YouTube and following a tutorial and just copying and pasting the code that you see there and having a project that works, but you don't understand a single line of code. I mean, actually going out on your own, implementing new features to a tutorial that you might have built or your own project, and understanding the lines of code, really seeing what something is doing, knowing why it's doing something and how your project actually works, because that is how you're actually going to learn, not just by copying and pasting someone else's code and claiming it to be your own. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Now, Squarespace is an amazing platform because it allows you to build amazing websites without having to know everything about programming. Now, here's the best thing. As developers, I know you know that we care about analytics because we want to see how our customers are using our products to make sure that we can optimize it and tweak it for the best use. So Squarespace provides that with their built-in functionality. So their analytics tools even include things like page views, traffic sources, time on the site, most read content, and audience geography. With this breadth of knowledge, you're gonna be able to know everything about your demographic, about your audience visiting your website. And it gets even better because we know as well that it's all about going viral and sharing this with the world. So they have amazing social media platform sharing functionality. What that means is pretty simple. It has the ability to share on any social media platform that you can think about. So you could share your amazing websites and put it out there into the interwebs. And here's the best part yet. As a developer, something that you can do is you can start to build your own personal brand. And what that means is you're going to want to build an audience of people. Well, Squarespace has you covered because with Squarespace, you're going to be able to run email campaigns. When you're running these email campaigns and providing value to people, they're going to love you even more. They're going to want to be part of your journey, and you're going to be able to grow the audience and just bring more value and impact into the world. So if you're looking to be a developer that is top-notch, a developer that is sought after by big tech companies, You're probably going to want to build an amazing email list with Squarespace's email campaigns, which will make it super easy to do. So go ahead, click the link below and check out Squarespace for a free trial when you're ready to launch your website. Go to squarespace.com/cleverprogrammer to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. So Squarespace is an amazing tool that you could use to build your own website or even your own portfolio to showcase to the world and build an amazing audience, build your personal brand, because as a developer, that'll be really useful. So once you've gone through this journey of becoming a master of your craft, of really honing in to becoming a full stack developer, now comes the fun part. This is the job hunt. This is where you have to now use other skill sets and develop these other skill sets to actually land your job and become a full stack JavaScript developer. So the quickest way to start off is the way that we all know and the way that everyone talks about, which is simply you could start off with the resume. If you had been properly building up your skills, if you had been making these projects while mastering JavaScript and becoming a full stack developer, you could start to leverage these projects and put them into your resume. The crazy thing is you don't need to be a programmer and you don't need to have programming experience to land a job as a full stack JavaScript developer, but you do need to have experience, and that experience can be shown through the projects that you've already built to be able to learn these foundational skill sets. So if you want to beef up your resume just a little bit more, you can also make your online portfolio. So what that would be is you buy a domain name that might be your full name or something that's available, and there you could put information about you. You can have an about section, you can have a projects and portfolios, and you can showcase all the things that you've been able to do. This, especially as a developer, is a little bit better than the resume because it shows that you also understand how to build websites. Now, to be honest, you could build your own website, or you can also just leverage other platforms to build your own website. But here at Clever Programmer, our job is to take you above and beyond what the regular person is doing, because that is what the regular software developer is doing to land a job. I'm about to tell you what are these other extra bonus things that you could be doing to make sure you land your job as a full stack JavaScript developer. So here is a little bonus that we're gonna give you. If you want to really increase your marketability, if you want to position yourself as an expert, you need to start to build your own brand. Now, you could do this in several different ways. One way is on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is very cool because you get to connect with a lot of experts out in the field. You could meet a lot of different recruiters, and you can use a lot of different strategies to get your resume and your portfolio in front of recruiters that you wouldn't be able to if you just went into Indeed.com and sent your resumes and your applications. If you leverage these connections, you'll be able to get in front of the right people and land your dream job as a full stack JavaScript developer. Now, not only that, LinkedIn is another social media platform, so you can actually leverage it to post about your own journey and document your own journey as a software developer. So think about this. Imagine you want to transition into software development, or you want to land your first job. If you start to talk about the projects that you're working on, the things that you're learning, and people start to interact with you, you're going to start to make some solid connections. But if someone can go back and see your story, it's going to be more beneficial, because if a recruiter can see your journey, they're going to have more of a connection with you than if they just saw your resume. So not only could you leverage LinkedIn, but you could also leverage other platforms such as Instagram or even Facebook. But the idea is, if you start to document your journey to becoming a full stack JavaScript developer and you start to show the world, you're positioning yourself in a manner that will allow recruiters to get to know more of you, and maybe they'll like your personality and they'll want to bring you in for an interview. Because let's be honest, we've all grown to understand the importance of having an online presence, because during a pandemic, you just can't go out and meet new people. So through having an online presence, you can network with the right people and build the right connections that will only propel you throughout your career as a software developer. So now let me drop another piece of advice here. It's gonna be tough when you're going through this application process, and here at Clever Programmer, we keep it serious. I don't want to lie to you. I want to be fully transparent with you. It's a hard process when you start to apply, but no one else is talking about this. Why? Because in reality, it's gonna be a numbers game. When you're out there applying, especially if you're getting a lot of rejection, it might feel like you're just trying to say yes to the very first job so you could just become a software developer. But you also want to make sure that you're interviewing the companies that are bringing you in for interviews, because you want to make sure it's also going to be a great fit for you. So this is going to be a numbers game. You are going to be rejected a lot. But let me tell you this, if you consistently show up, if you consistently submit applications, if you're consistently networking with other software developers and other recruiters, it's just a matter of time before you land your dream job as a full stack JavaScript developer. So the process is tough, but stick to the process. Keep reaching out, keep networking, keep sending applications, keep those rejections coming, because it only takes one job offer to change your life. Now, one final tip. By now, you're out there, you have an amazing LinkedIn profile, you're networking, you're making amazing connections, you're putting out your journey to become and landing your first full stack software developer job. You're applying, you're getting rejected, but you don't care because you know it's just a matter of time before you get accepted. And now you're in the interview process. You're getting interviewed by some companies and you might be having a difficult time. And you might be having a hard time because some of these want you to do technical interviews and others don't. Well, there's going to be two specific skills that you're going to want to build during this interview process phase. But again, I want to reemphasize this. You don't have to worry about this when you're applying to jobs. You don't have to worry about this when you're learning about programming. You only have to worry about the technical skill set when you've been getting interviews time and time again, but you're not getting the job offer. Now you know that there's something you have to work on. This is when you want to dive deeper into data structures and algorithms. This is when you want to leverage things such as LeetCode or HackerRank and use these platforms so that you could develop those skill sets. So when you show up to an interview and they ask you a technical question and you solve that technical question in the most optimal way possible, then they're really going to want to bring you into the company. But you don't have to worry about this until the bottleneck of you landing a job is the technical interviews. Now, I said in interviewing, there's two things you want to pay attention to. The other thing is the soft skills or the behavioral questions. Honestly, here is my biggest tip. This is the tip that's allowed me to get job offers from Blue Origin, Microsoft, and Google. When I showed up to the interviews, instead of being nervous or instead of faking my confidence, I just realized that the other person across the table or the other person, now since a lot of the interviews are done virtually, in the other side of the computer is just a human being. When I was able to realize that, I was able to just have that empathy that, hey, I'm here. I might feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but also in reality, they don't know what they're doing. No one knows what they're doing, right? When I went into interviews with this maybe ridiculous mindset, it allowed me to be comfortable and it allowed me to connect with the other person. When they were asking me questions, they weren't going against me and trying to figure out what my flaws were. In fact, they were on my side. They're trying to figure out what my strengths were so that they can showcase that and they could bring me into the company. When I started to think of them and assume that they were my friends, the minute I entered that room, the conversations were completely different. I wasn't robotic. I was able to show up. I was able to be charismatic. I was able to drop in jokes here and there. And I was able to connect with them as a human being. And that was one of the biggest mindset shifts that allowed me to start to crush the soft skills or the behavioral questions when it came to interviewing. Now, that was a big mindset shift for me, but I also still had to make sure that I had basic human communication skills. For example, I had good eye contact, I had good projection, I had good manners, I had good etiquette. I also had to make sure I just had regular human-to-human interaction skills. For example, I had good eye contact, I had good voice projection. I was able to ask intuitive and interesting questions and solve some problems. They just wanted to know that I'm a normal person, that you're a normal person, because we're going to be working with them. We're going to be a team member. They want to make sure that if I was part of their team, I had their back. And just one more tip, because this video is full of tips for you. You can also prepare for behavioral questions. A behavioral question is when they ask you, hey, in XYZ situation, that might be a very hard situation to deal with, how would you react? Or they might ask you, tell me about a time where XYZ. With these type of of situations, something you can do to prepare ahead of time is you can start to think of scenarios and specific stories that you want to tell for these questions. I'm sure you've come across a tough situation where you had to make a decision between going this route or going that route, and it was a dilemma because you really couldn't choose. You want to think of that story and you want to think about how you can frame that story so it makes you look like the hero when you made a decision. What did you learn? What were the results of those things? If you prep 4 to 5 different stories, whenever they ask you one behavioral question, you could probably go to your inventory of stories, pick one out, and just use it. Because you practice it, you're going to be able to deliver it with ease, and then you're not going to be worried about what questions are going to throw my way. So guys, I just went through how you could go and become a full stack JavaScript developer, literally starting from scratch. Now, here's the amazing thing, guys. We actually created a program at Clever Programmer called Full Stack Mastery, where we take you from zero to becoming a full stack developer, and we even help you to land your very first job as a full stack JavaScript developer. So everything that I talked about in this video, we take you step by step with live coaching and courses to supplement you and keep you accountable every step of the way. If you are interested in learning more about it, go ahead, hit the link below, apply to the program, and if you qualify, we'll reach out to you to see what your goals are and how we can help you to achieve your goal and help you land your very first job as a full stack JavaScript software developer. Now remember, we're only teaching you very relevant technologies such as React, the basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript. On the back end, you'll be looking at Node.js, Firebase, SQL, MongoDB. These are the essential technologies you need to learn. And then we're going to be building projects that will give you that real world experience. If you go through this bootcamp with the cohort, you're going to have the accountability from them. You're going to have the accountability from the coaches. So there is virtually no way for you to fail. So if that interests you, go ahead, click the link below, submit your applications, and I look forward to seeing you inside a Full Stack Mastery Bootcamp. So with that being said, guys, if you got any value from this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification icon so that you'll know when the next video that will give you so much more value gets dropped. All right, guys, that is it for this video. This is Coach Daniel signing out. Peace.